Welcome to the Benji channel. My name is Benji, and today it actually happened. The long-awaited rematch of the century in One Piece. Kinda. Luffy and Lucci actually decided to fight again in this chapter. And I'm not gonna lie, it didn't go exactly how I thought it was gonna go. But aside from that, the thing that has me most hype about this recent One Piece chapter is none other than the information bomb that we got about devil fruits. But before we go ahead and start, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the Benji channel. I'm only like 29 subscribers away from hitting 100, so if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the Benji channel, as well as the Geek Giant podcast channel. And please, if you haven't already, go ahead and join the Geek Giant Discord. I have a special announcement for a special brand of content that I've been working on, so go ahead and join the Discord. I'll keep you updated in the next couple weeks. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and begin chapter 1069 of One Piece. We owe all there is to desire. Very cool and unique name for a chapter, and it kind of ties into the devil fruits that we'll see. But we begin the chapter with a very interesting cover story page, and it's of a gentleman named Lou Fleed. And I think I'm pretty much saying that terribly wrong, but you know, please don't come at me in the comments. And according to the description, he's a philanthropic loan shark, and he was one of the main sponsors for funding the MADS program, consisting of Vegapunk, Caesar Clown, Queen, and Judge. And I will go ahead and say this, Mr. Lou is actually a pretty drippy guy, but I digress. Moving on, we continue what happened last chapter with a special reunion between the Straw Hats and the newly appointed CP0 agents, who are formerly known as CP9. And from the looks of it, Chopper and Jinbei seems to be pretty surprised that they have come so soon to take Vegapunk's head. But on the other hand, Luffy doesn't seem too happy to see Lucci and his gang. We get some funny dialogue of Luffy asking Lucci why he is here, and Lucci simply responds by saying, "You do realize that this is a government island you're on." And Luffy corrects himself saying, "Oh yeah, we are the ones out of place here." Kaku interjection lets it be known that it is wise to follow protocol and not to engage with the Straw Hats, especially since Luffy is a newly appointed emperor. Stussy also adds that Yonkos have so much influence on the world that even a little skirmish could result in an all-out war. And this is really cool because I guess I haven't given it too much thought of the fact that Luffy has now become a Yonko at this point, which is super dope to me. But I don't know, it's really nice to see Luffy go from a small dinghy at the beginning of his adventure to now being one of the 4 great Yonkos within the seas. So I don't know, man, that's my MC, man. I'm really happy for my boy Luffy. Now while this is happening, Luffy actually gives an unconscious Bonnie to Jinbei so he can protect her. Luffy also stumbles upon Vegapunk Atlas, who is very badly injured from the last chapter where Lucci actually attacked her. And Luffy decides to put her in the care of Chopper. And Luffy, absolutely furious with Lucci, says this: "That kid," referring to Atlas, "gave us food." Now Luffy, he's very trivial in a lot of his reasonings of doing things, but one thing is for sure, if you show Luffy any kind of kindness, he will always have your back. That's why I love Luffy, man. But we cut to the Navy HQ and we cut to the Fleet Admiral himself, Akainu. And he has received news that the Straw Hats are in Egghead, and that this is extremely messy because also CP0 is there as well. Now one thing that is very interesting, it doesn't seem like communication between CP0 and the Marines is very prominent. I do know that the Marines have to go through the chain of command, especially from orders from the 5 Elders or the Gorosei, but I don't necessarily know if the government dogs of CP0 and the Marines have much communication, if any at all. But in addition, Akainu was actually also worried for the fact that Luffy may have cut a deal with none other than Vegapunk, especially since he does know that CP0 is trying to take Vegapunk's head. This could be a major blow to the military support that the Marines have. And I mainly think he's more so referring to the Seraphim, especially them being on the pirate side of things, especially since the Seraphims are in place to replace the warlords. But also, we get confirmation that none other than Kizaru is headed to Egghead Island as we speak. Now this is going to be crazy because a couple of things could actually happen. We might actually see a reunion between Kizaru and the Straw Hats, just like in Saba Ondi. And this would be crazy, especially for the fact that all of the Straw Hats have gotten significantly stronger since that very day. And also, this is me being a Sanji fan, we're going to see two of the fastest individuals within One Piece possibly duke it out. Now, I will say this, I don't necessarily know if Sanji's 100% ready just yet, but I will say that it will be an epic fight nonetheless. Just imagine Ifrit Jambi against those light beams that Kizaru is able to wield. Oh man, that would be crazy. Also, I could see Zoro maybe clashing with Kizaru. Zoro got to get his lick back, you know, and Zoro has become significantly stronger since the last time we seen him in Saba Ondi as well. So I could also vouch for that, but you know me, I'm a side more so with the Sanji stuff. You feel me? Now, one of the crazy things that I actually thought about is the fact that a lot of the major players within Saba Ondi are going to make an appearance within Egghead, excluding CP0, but the fact that Kizaru, in this chapter we also do get Sentomaru, as well as the Straw Hats, all of them are going to gather together possibly, and we could see a long-awaited reunion. And also, we still don't know from last chapter what happened to Kuma. I do feel like maybe Sabo was probably going to be saved by Kuma, but I do think that the possibility is there that Kuma could also go to Egghead as well. And my second point, maybe Kizaru wants to go ahead and save his nephew Sentomaru, especially for the events that happen a little bit later on this chapter. I don't 100% know because I do feel like Kizaru's loyalty is 100% with the Admirals. So even if Sentomaru may be siding a little bit with Luffy and his gang, it could be a situation where Kizaru actually sides with the Marines. But nevertheless, Kizaru finally being able to make his move to Egghead, especially since he wasn't able to go to Wano, is pretty hype. I want to see how Oda is going to kind of lay out everything. So we cut back to Egghead and it is finally happening, a rematch between Lucci and Luffy. And Luffy is in his Gear 5th form. And I have a little bit of a question regarding that, but let's continue on. And we get even more hype because Lucci isn't like he used to be. He is different. He has finally awakened his devil fruit into this new form. And this form looks absolutely fuego. Now, mind you, Lucci was instructed by not only Kaku, but also the Marines to not engage Straw Hat and his crew. But I think that Lucci probably has a grudge to pick with Luffy after the events of Enies Lobby. But disregarding all of that, Lucci's awakening is pretty dope. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is, if you look at the appearance of Lucci's awakening as well as Luffy's, they do have these clouds that kind of wrap around their arms and then go around their heads. Now, I don't know whether or not this is a design choice or this is going to place some significance in awakening fruits a little bit later on in the series, but I do kind of want to see what happens. Anywho, we see that Vegapunk, the original, has actually made it back to the other members of the Straw Hats, and he drops some lore bombs on all of us. Now first, when he arrives, he actually refers to Luffy's Gear 5th as the White Warrior, which is kind of racist, but I digress. Anyways, he asks the crew whether or not they know the story of Luffy's transformation, and Nami answers that they really don't know too much themselves. Vegapunk then relays to him that there's no mention of the Gum Gum fruit in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. And I'm gonna just say this, I don't know if I'm the only one who actually thought of this. I didn't know that there was a Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. That shit is crazy. Vegapunk continues and says that Luffy looks exactly like the god that was described in ancient text. He says, "I speak of the warrior of liberation, whose tactics could bring a smile to anyone's lips, aka the sun god Nika." And Vegapunk also adds that the sun god Nika was erased from all other history books. Is another reason why Nami says she had never heard of Nika as well. Now mind you, while this is being said by Vegapunk, Luffy is having the time of his life fighting Lucci. And I gotta say this, Luffy's Gear 5th transformation has gotta be my favorite transformation in the series of all time. And it's very cool to see that Oda decided to go with something different than the typical edgelord transformation that we got in a lot of other shonen. So I really do appreciate Gear 5th. Vegapunk continues and says this. And yet as long as people's desires persist, such a things will never cease to be. We owe all there is to desire. And he says, for example, the devil fruits. Devil fruits are a manifestation of the desire to see how people's path of evolution can play out. Gee, I wish I could do X, or I wish we could do Y. Fruits' powers actualize such wishes. Each showcases a different possibility for the future of humanity. These deviations, of course, are unnatural, so it makes sense that they attract the ire of Mother Nature, the sea itself. Now all of this is dope, but before I continue, I want to go ahead and show you this panel of both Luffy and Lucci clashing in their awakened forms. This harkens back to their first battle within Enies Lobby. And the fact that this is happening all while all of this epic dialogue is happening with all of these crazy paneling, big shout out to Oda. Oda is in fine form. Now from the looks of the clash, it looks like Luffy and Lucci are having a simple ornament hockey clash. It's nothing serious. I know a lot of people were saying that Lucci has Conqueror's Haki. Let's relax, guys. Come on, guys. Come on. But if you look really close, if you look at the face-to-face panels that we get within this chapter, they also pay homage to Luffy's and Lucci's first battle within Enies Lobby as well. But Vegapunk goes on. One who has eaten a fruit lives a completely alien existence, born out of the limitless permutation of imagination. That's my theory, at least, whether you believe there's a God out there or not. But one thing's for sure, we live in a wondrous world. And the statements made by Vegapunk himself have completely shocked both Sanji, Frankie, and Usopp. But man, this was super dope to see, especially with the way that Oda was able to incorporate the paneling as well as the intrigue of the dialogue. The fact that devil fruits are theorized to be created from human desires and are manifestations of human innate desire to reach beyond the realm of natural human evolution is crazy dope. And this leads to a lot of questions, especially to a lot of the characters that do have devil fruits and those that don't, such as Shanks and Rogers, who don't have devil fruits, and then Blackbeard and his crew, who exclusively use devil fruits. Now obviously you could make the argument that those things are kind of mutually exclusive from each other, but at the same time I do feel like they do have some correlation with the personalities of individuals that do have devil fruits and those that don't. Is it a situation where Shanks and Roger were individuals who are driven by willpower, and those who use devil fruits such as Luffy, Law, Kid, as well as Blackbeard are driven by desire? Just a theory. It may not 100% track 100% well, but I do want to know what you guys think in the comments down below. I definitely feel like in this chapter, Oda is telling us to read between the lines in this chapter, but I do kind of want to see if we can connect the dots, especially with this long break that's happening after this chapter, but I digress. Moving on, we finally see Sentomaru, and the reason that we haven't seen him up until now is the fact that he was supposed to have today off, and he's accompanied by the Seraphim of Mihawk, Boa, and Jinbei. Sentomaru seems a little bit confused for the fact that they seem to be helping out pirates. But Vegapunk reminds Sentomaru that he was able to help him when he was down bad. So inevitably, Sentomaru chooses the side of loyalty and sides with Vegapunk and Luffy. Now mind you, Lucci and the CP0 agents still have control of the Kuma Seraphim. But by the command of Sentomaru, the Seraphim Kuma actually attacks the CP0 agents. And it is explained that the Seraphims or the pacifistas actually follow a chain of command, with the 5 elders at top, Dr. Vegapunk beneath that, Sentomaru, and then those who hold a authority chip. Now I believe that this might play into the final war of what we'll see within One Piece. The fact that the Gorosei are at the top of the chain of command, especially of these Seraphim, who are actually here to replace the warlords, is pretty significant. Now the only thing is, maybe Vegapunk has a failsafe to override the command of the Gorosei in some kind of capacity, but we'll just have to see. But I do think this is very interesting, especially with only the 5 elders being ahead of Dr. Vegapunk. And it also could play into maybe the 5 elders never trusted Dr. Vegapunk exclusively for such technology, so that could also be something as well. But also considering that Vegapunk was at the mercy of the Five Elders, especially since they funded a lot of his projects, it could have already been incorporated that he probably signed a contract, or they were able to supervise his work in order for them to be at the top of the chain of command for the Seraphims. But I don't know, we'll see. We move to Kaku, who states that in retrospect, damaging the Seraphims could be bad for the government support. We then move on to Luffy, who uses a massive attack called Gumu Gumu no Mo Punch, which allows Luffy to punch through the ground and subsequently hit Lucci in the stomach directly. As this happens, Sentomaru directs the Seraphim to engage in battle. Now while this is happening, Jinbei gets his first look at the Seraphim Jinbei. And from the looks of it, I don't think that Jinbei or any of the other warlords had any idea that their DNA was going to be cloned. This is very interesting because I want to see if Vegapunk, especially along on the journey, explains this to Jinbei. We then see Luffy, who is happily flying in the air it seems, and he soon speaks with his old buddy Sentomaru. Sentomaru questions whether or not he is seriously going to help Vegapunk escape from Egghead. They continue their conversation, and in a lame ass move by Lucci decides to attack a surprise Sentomaru with a hand pistol attack. Lucci decides to sneak attack Sentomaru in an effort to take back command of the Seraphim. Luffy is shocked, and at the end of the chapter we see Lucci say this: "Now Seraphim, obey us." But the thing that doesn't necessarily make sense is the fact that Vegapunk is still there and he is the second above Sentomaru in command, in the chain of command. So can he just tell the Seraphim to not listen to Lucci and just attack them? You know, but I digress. But unfortunately, this seems to be the last chapter of 2022. It seems like these last 3 weeks, Oda's going to take a break, and I think we might get one more chapter, but from the looks of it, from what I saw, this probably is the last chapter of the year, and happy holidays to you, Oda. But so many things to discuss for this chapter. Luffy seems to have a good grasp on his Gear 5th abilities, but my only question is whether or not there's any drawbacks to this form. And all of the gears that we've seen Luffy have before, whether it be Gear 2nd where he loses some lifespan or he depletes his life, for Gear 3rd he shrinks, and for Gear 4th he actually loses his ability to use Anihaki for I think like 15 minutes. But in Gear 5th we haven't seen any drawbacks for this form, so I want to see if Oda is cooking something up for Luffy to possibly be shortening his lifespan using this ability. But I do think that Vegapunk speaking on the understanding of Luffy's transformation is going to play a huge factor in the story a little bit later on. Also, another thing, Luffy better body Lucci next chapter. I don't want to see no more of this fight. I want to see Luffy absolutely body this chump Lucci. Stop playing with me. But I will go ahead and say this. I feel like Lucci's awakening, it's really dope to see. It's kind of see him back in fine form once again. But what do you think of the chapter? Please let me know in the comments down below. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the Vinsmoke Benji channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.